What's going on YouTube? Josh here with the Creative Wade, and today is going to be a little bit different. I saw a list and I had to comment on it from the fine folks over at Gearspace. It's actually called Gearsluts. The fine folks at Gearspace made a list of the top 10 DAWs of 2023, and this carries over into 2024 because they haven't released the new one yet. So I just figured I'll go ahead and make a video about it because I more or less did agree with pretty much everything they were saying in the list. I'd say like 90% of it I agreed with. So without further delay, let's hop into what they say one of the top best DAWs of 2023 was, and probably still is going into 24. It should be no surprise to anybody. It is Avid Pro Tools Studio, widely recognized as one of the best DAWs when it comes to recording, editing, and mixing. Still, for the most part, the industry standard, which facilitates easy session exchange between studios and professionals. Pro Tools cons: a bit slow to include new features and not the flashiest DAW in terms of innovation. That is the understatement of the century. Pro Tools is easily a decade behind any other DAW right now. But I will say this, I will end with Pro Tools on a good note. I really like where Avid is going, and I did make a video about that, and I really am looking forward to seeing what the new company who just purchased Avid is going to do with it and the direction that they're going to push Pro Tools. So I am still hopeful for Pro Tools. I would like to see it kind of catch up with the rest of the class. Number 2 on the list, Apple Logic Pro. I can agree with that also. I've done a lot of session work in Logic Pro, and it's an amazing DAW. Pros: the best DAW when it comes to bundled content. Absolutely can agree with that. With an ever-growing array of excellent plugins, samples, and virtual instruments that will likely be more than enough for casual users. Cons: audio editing is still not as flexible as others, Mac only. Yep, that's kind of a big con, and that is actually why I kind of got away from Logic Pro, because a lot of my friends do use PC. Believe it or not, people still use PCs to make music. I was one of them for a little while. I went back and forth from Mac to PC, but I would say Logic, yeah, I agree with that. Number 2 is pretty cool. Number 3 is going to be Steinberg's Cubase Pro 13. Okay, let's read what they have to say about it. Pros: arguably, absolutely, the most well-rounded DAW out there in terms of content and features. It might be a notch below Apple's flagship Logic Pro in terms of content, but it has the benefit of working on both Mac and Windows system. Cons: relatively expensive. Okay, I can agree with that. I can agree with all that. I really think Cubase Pro 13 especially is doing a really good job, and I really do think it's one of the top DAWs. In my personal opinion, I think Logic Pro and Cubase are kind of the best DAWs if you want to just get into music production right out of the gate. Now, you have to get Cubase Pro because I've not really had any experience with any of the lower tiers. I know Cubase Pro 12 and 13. 12 had a lot of stuff, and 13 come with even more stuff. So I can agree with this list. Number 4, okay, they're definitely not putting them in any particular order because they say Reaper is number 4, and all you Reaper fans are going, but it is number 4, it's number 1. It's not bad. I have used it, but not to really the fullest extent, so I can honestly say I'm not a professional. Let's see what they say about it. A highly capable and immensely flexible DAW with deep customization. It definitely has customization. Reaper is your best pick if you want total control. It's also extremely affordable and basically a no-brainer for the cost-savvy studio. Cons: the deep tweakability might be a bit too nerdy for some, and there's a good chance of getting lost amongst all the settings and options. I agree with everybody when they say it's very light. It's under 100 megabytes for the download. You can buy it for $60. It's totally capable of doing whatever you probably need it to do, but I'm not that nerdy, as they said in little quotes. So there was a lot of stuff that I had to change. It took me a solid 2 hours to get it to where I liked it. And then after I realized I could just go into Studio One and it's set up the way I want it, I just went ahead and went back to Studio One, and I've not even produced a song in Reaper, but I'll give it kudos. It is a great DAW. I know a lot of people who use it and they swear by it. So let's go on to the next DAW. Ableton Live 12. Sweet. Of course, they're not going to list the entry-level ones. Pros: streamlined for composition and live performance like no other DAW. Agreed. Live heralded a new era for electronic, whatever that word means. For music production, it can be even more effective when used with special live-friendly controllers, which are optimized for the software's array of performance features. Cons: a very idiocentric piece of software whose unique workflow may or may not appeal to some, and those hardware controllers feel somewhat necessary to get the best out of it. I have the Novation Launchpad X, and I don't really feel like I need that controller to make music. Granted, I really like having it when I'm using Ableton Live, but I don't agree with that little last section. I don't think you need hardware. The only thing that stopped me from really going to Ableton Live more full-time was the lack of ARA integration. It doesn't have ARA still, even with 12. That's why I'm not upgrading to 12. I'm still on 11. And no, you don't just use ARA for Melodyne vocal pitch correction. I use Melodyne all the time for instrument pitch manipulation. So I like to change instruments around and stuff, and it's both monophonic and polyphonic, so I can edit acoustic guitars or just basic bass lines. I really wish Ableton would bring us ARA, because that would put me in Ableton a lot more. So on to the next one, and I'll put the number, I think we're on number 5. Yay, PreSonus Studio One 6.5. This is my daily driver right here. This is my main DAW. Pros: another solid contender that has been climbing the ranks over the past few years. Studio One is now almost 10 years old and has improved greatly on all areas since its introduction. Cons: hardly any. Although it might not match the level of included content that Cubase and Logic Pro give you for the cost of admission. And they are absolutely correct on that. My biggest complaint with Studio One, and I've made videos about this, the plugins are outdated, the stock sounds are trash. Cubase destroys Studio One for stock plugins and stock sounds and virtual instruments. Again, it's my DAW, I use it, I'm not going anywhere. I really wish they'd bring us some, modern amenities. That'd be great, guys. Come on, PreSonus, please. So the next one on the list, Bitwig Studio 5. Now I have to be honest with you guys and say this is the one on the list that I have very little experience with. Let's see what they have to say about it. Pros: Bitwig has all the features of a complete DAW and also great solutions for live performing. Currently it's on 4.4. I don't think it's on 4.4 right now because they have 5 up there. I think it's on like 5.2 or something like that at the time of recording this. The software has made huge improvements by adding new features and enhancing its workflow. I have very little experience with this. I did use it for about a day or two, and I made a couple of beats in it. And it was good. I just don't know enough about it to really comment on it, but it seemed like a very capable DAW from the limited experience that I had. Let's see what the next one is. ImageLine FL Studio All Plugins Edition. Now they have to specifically say that because if you get the $100 version of FL Studio, it's not a DAW. And for those of you thinking, yeah, it is, it's a real DAW, you can't record audio in the basic version and you can't edit audio in the basic version. Digital audio workstation. So it's just a digital workstation. If you get FL, you're probably gonna not just buy the $100 version anyway, so that doesn't really matter. Let's see what the fine folks at Gearspace have to say about it. Pros: a favorite amongst electronic musicians, producers, and beat makers, FL Studio has added many features and improvements over the years, and it's now a very complete package. I'd agree with all that, actually. Cons: not the most well-rounded for working with genres other than electronic music. Yep, there's their understatement of the year. FL Studio, I think, is great, and like I said, unless you get the $100 version, in which case it's not a real DAW. On to the next one, Reason Studios Reason 12, did I read that right? Reason Studios Reason 12. Okay, I don't know anything about this one, just to let you guys know. Pros: after being merged with its sister audio capturing DAW, Record, a few years ago, Reason is now a fully fledged DAW that can tackle anything from composition to recording and mixing, which looks a lot like a fun with its SSL-esque mixer. Cons: basically none since VST support was implemented on a recent version. Man, I haven't used Reason since it was just Reason Rack and Pro Tools 7.3, I think it was. And that looks very similar to how it used to look back in the day. I know that's Ableton in the background, but this rack section right here looks very similar to how it looked over a decade ago when I used Pro Tools. Again, I don't know enough about it. A lot's changed, I'm sure, and I don't know enough about it. Feel free to comment down below if you use Reason. I've heard great things about it, but I'm very uneducated when it comes to that. So on to the last one on the list, Mode 2 Digital Performer 11. When I said I was uneducated on the last one, I am very uneducated on this one. I don't know anything about Digital Performer. Pros, DP is a solid all-round DAW, more packed with features than ever before in its 9th iteration, but it has been especially widely praised over the years for its efficient on scoring and MIDI work in general. A favorite of film composers indeed. Okay, I thought Hans Zimmer used Cubase, but what do I know? Cons, none. None now that it also supports Windows. It didn't support Windows? It was only available on Mac before, huh? And well, hey, there you go. If you didn't know that, I didn't know that either. We just both learned something. Feel free to comment down below. I don't know anything about Digital Performer. I've heard great things about it, but I don't know anything about DP. So that's the list according to the fine folks over at Gearspace. What do you guys think? Let's start a conversation down below. What do you think of this list? And again, this is a 2023 list. My number one DAW is Studio One, and I just sit here and I talk trash about it because no DAW is perfect. What do you guys think of this list? Feel free to leave a comment down below. Let's start a conversation, and I will see you guys in the next video. Remember, it's called Music Theory, not Music Fact. Have a good one.